not in your vocabulary? Are you willing to outwork everyone in your next contest but need the right guidance? Drop those bad contest prep strategies and let New York Muscle Radio guide you on your journey to the stage. Whether it's your first show or you're going for that pro card, get a leg up on the competition with individual customized contest prep strategies. Visit NewYorkMuscleRadio.com and click on that coaching tab to get started.
New York's very own muscle building coaches, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian, proudly present to you New York Muscle Radio.
What's up, guys? New York Muscle Radio, episode number 112. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, alongside my co-host, Big Pete Kacharian. If you're a new listener to New York Muscle Radio, welcome to the only podcast on iTunes that actually gives away good, usable information. But what's up, big guy? Today's podcast is on how to meal prep with flexible dieting, something that's not really spoken about. You know, when you hear meal prep, you think of like doing like a standard diet, like a paleo diet or whatever, Atkins, this, that type of diet. And no one really talks about meal prepping for flexible dieting. So it's a good idea to do a podcast on that. What's up?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people just pay attention to one or the other, and they don't realize that part of flexible dieting can include prepping meals. You know, I think people just assume, and I think a lot of people portray flexible dieting in the light that, you know, you just leave the house and when you want to eat, you eat. And when you feel like eating junk food, you eat junk food. And, you know, that's part of it. If you feel like eating junk food or you feel like eating something out, that's great. You could fit that in. But that doesn't mean that you're never going to prepare meals. You're never going to pack meals with you so that you could, you know, eat when you leave the house. You know, I mean, I go on trips sometimes and I like to have my meals, but I also am flexible with it. But I'm not the type of person that likes to just eat every single meal out. I don't know how people do that, you know, especially if I go on a trip. I like to prepare my own food sometimes. I don't like to just eat out because I'm not home. You know, I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm similar to that, but I guess we'll get into that discussion as the time goes. But I wanted to talk about a little bit the feedback on the shirts we've been getting, big guy. We got some good feedback. Again, if you guys want to help support the channel, you can head on over to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com, click on that products tab, and you'll see our new New York Muscle Radio t-shirts are available. And like I said, I think they came out better than I expected them to come out. And we got some pretty good feedback from the people who have ordered them so far. So far, so good.
Yeah, I think they came out really good. And I think that's due to the fact that it's not just me and you responsible for it. If that were the case, then they probably would come out a little bit less good quality than they've managed to come out. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a t-shirt person. I'm just in charge of making the shirt and the design. So that was it. It wasn't up to me to actually do the actual t-shirt part of it. I do ship them, though, so you guys, maybe I'll autograph the next couple that come in, you know?
Yeah, and the shipping quality will be very good. I can promise that for you guys. You get good quality shipping, too.
Yeah. We should probably do that. Take a picture of both of us and autograph it and send it in.
Hey, listen, I don't have an ego, but if somebody wants an autograph from us, I would be very happy to sign an autograph for you guys. It'll probably look like a fifth grader signed it. That's my autograph.
Yeah, and mine won't be too far off. Yeah. It'll probably look like your doctor signed it.
The one you could actually read, that's probably going to be Anthony's. The one you have no idea what it says, that's me.
Have you ever seen my script? Have you ever seen my handwriting?
No. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't think I have.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Mine's pretty bad, too.
Yeah, so again, if anybody wants an autograph,
just ask.
Yeah, just head on over to send an email to NewYorkMuscleRadio@gmail.com and we'll be happy to send you an autograph, a signed New York Muscle Radio. Wow, imagine we start getting inquiries for that. That'd be pretty funny.
Hey, listen, if you want one with your t-shirt, just ask. We'll send one. Personal.
Yeah, definitely. Personal. I'll get the big guy here to sign it. Maybe he'll even spill some of his ice cream on the picture.
You probably will get a little bit of ice cream with your t-shirt when you come. That's free, guys.
Yeah, and between the last podcast, it was all about food. Hopefully this one doesn't turn into the same thing.
Yeah, it might, though. I mean, we're going to start talking about flexible dieting and meal prep, so I think we're going to go off a little bit on food tangent, but we'll keep it relative to the conversation.
Yeah, man. So let's let the listeners know. So, like, where are you at right now? Are you dieting, bulking? I mean, I don't even know anymore with you.
Yeah. Well, I've been in an extended off-season now for exactly a year. This month is a year since I stepped on stage, and I did a nice long reverse diet. I competed last August. Did a nice reverse diet until right around November. So about 3 months after the contest, I pretty much reverse dieted for as long as I dieted. A little bit longer, actually, was the reverse diet. Kept that there until about December, and then started to ramp my calories back up to add a little more mass. And at the end of my reverse diet, I was up to about 245 grams of protein, 420 grams of carbs, and 75 grams of fat. And that's kind of the tipping point for me. When I go over there, that's when I'll start to sacrifice a little bit of extra body fat to get my calories higher and then to put more muscle on. And since then, it's just been a pretty long, consistent bulk. Not going too much higher than that. I've had my carbs up to the highest was about 500. Protein kept around the same, 245-ish, 225-ish. And fat's gotten as high as like 90. Right now, I'm kind of in a phase where I do slowly here and there pull calories back a little bit just to give my body a break from force feeding myself, to be honest with you. And I like to do I don't really consider them mini cuts. I kind of just consider them a period of time where I scale back a little bit, kind of to help increase your insulin sensitivity. Because when you start blasting 500 grams of carbs daily for a long period of time, your body just starts to resist them. And, you got to scale back a little bit if you're going to be an extended bulk. So yeah, that's where I am right now. I'm still in that phase.
Funny because I feel like I do the same thing too. I was at the point where I was really trying to put some weight on. And for me, it never seems to come on, and it comes on so slowly, I ramped my carbs up to around 600. I was a macronator, as people have said it, to around 600 grams of carbs. My protein was just about around 190 to 200, and my fat intake was around 120. So a lot of calories there, and it's terrible. It's not something it sounds great. For those of you listening, you're like, oh my God, that sounds amazing, blah, blah, blah. But it's not. It's very, very hard. It was almost nearly impossible to hit the 600 grams of carbs every day. If you miss a meal or miss a serving of carbohydrates somewhere along the line there for the day, you're done.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that like you said, it's not, after a certain point, it's not fun anymore. All the extra calories, I say it all the time. I rather diet, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I rather diet. It's so much easier. It's so much easier. And, when you have to eat again, you can bet you're probably going to be hungry. So you're going to enjoy the meal. When you look at your calculator for the day or whatever it is that you're using to track your macronutrients, and you're looking at 6 p.m. and you got to consume 500 grams of carbs, and you're only up to 250, 300 for the day, and you got to put down another 200 or so, and you're not even hungry, it just becomes not fun. You just start shoving food in your mouth. And I mean, that comes with the territory. If you're trying to add muscle and you have a fast metabolism and you're pretty much at the height of your bulk, you're going to have to do that. It's going to come with it, but it's not as fun as, just having a little bit of extra macros and playing with it and deciding to add a little, nice treat here and there just to fit it in. But when you got to just constantly pound food, it becomes boring after a while. Sometimes, I'm at the point right now where I'm looking forward to dieting, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea that you said, scaling back the calories every once in a while to give you a break. And it's so true because I'm doing the same thing right now. I told you, so, I went from 600 grams of carbs. I dropped them all the way down to 475 and my fat from 120 to around 75, just to kind of give myself a little bit of a mental break too, because you start to get a little stressed out if you can't hit those numbers. And, people are probably listening to this like, oh my God, how is he saying that he can't hit them? It's not impossible, but it's freaking hard, and it becomes a job, And I was getting to the point where I had to drink iced tea, stupid stuff, and I hate that. I have to add oil to everything, and I just feel I feel fat doing that, like not to sound girly, but I feel fat.
I know what you mean.
It.
I mean, the biggest thing that happens is after a while, your stomach just gets so bombarded with having food in it. There's never a time where it's empty, and you almost sometimes crave having an empty stomach, as weird as that sounds, but it's good, again, to scale back for a number of reasons. Your metabolism is good. It's good for your digestive system too, because people don't realize it too. It's not good for your digestive system to constantly pound food. You should give it a rest here and there. You know what I mean? When you have to eat 4,000 calories a day for day after day, month after month, your digestive system takes a hit. Your body is not, everyone says, oh, the body's a machine. Yeah, but it's not a machine that doesn't need downtime. You know, everything, it's just like anything else. You need deload when you work out. You need to take diet breaks, you know, both in the sense of adding calories and restricting them too. So don't think that you should just perma-bulk all the time, as people like to call it.
You know, it's funny because before I decided to ramp up my calories, I felt like I was in a good spot, you know. I was pretty lean at my weight, and I could have probably rid that out all the way until like the summer, you know, the end of summer, you know, beginning of like the winter time when I probably would have, quote unquote, needed to diet and take a break. But I really wanted to try to push the calories and try to gain as much strength as possible and eke out what I could. So that's why I did that. But in hindsight, I look back on that and I probably won't go that high again because there's no point. There's no reason, especially since I was barely hitting it, you know?
Yeah, once you kind of hit your body fat set point, wherever the calories kind of fall to get you there, you don't have to really push it beyond there. You know, a lot of times people want to see the scale move, and I think that was probably one of the things that drove you to do it too. You wanted to get bigger, you want to see the scale move, and someone like me, I struggle with that a lot too because I naturally don't weigh that much. You know, at the height of my bulk, I'm like sitting around like 185, 190 pretty much. And, you know, I'm consuming upwards of 4,000 calories and I'm still not even pushing 200 pounds. So you think, you know, you feel small. I need to get bigger. I need to see that scale move. So you start pushing the food even more just to see the scale move. And, you know, the number on the scale doesn't mean anything. You know, we all know that, but it's one of those things that if you pay too much attention to, it could cause you to do other things that's actually going to, you know, impact you negatively, like just trying to move the scale by eating more food. And that's never a good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, let's move on to the shout-outs portion of the podcast. So again, if you guys want a shout-out, you can head on over to facebook.com/New York Muscle Radio, or you can hit us up on Instagram. I'm at AB Fitness and Pete's at Jacked Fitness. So again, you can hit us up on there for a shout-out. Today's shout-outs are going to be coming straight from my Instagram and Pete's Instagram. So I got at the Flexible Foodie, at Coolsville59, at Johnny Juice,
The Juice Man, at Mia8225, at Courtney Ustecki, at Redvert13. And then I'm going to give a shout out to at Shorty Journey. That's Shorty, right?
Yeah.
Shorty Journey. That's actually Sean Johnson on Instagram. He shouted us out. Actually, he left us a nice comment. He said, "Keep up the great work, guys, on New York Muscle Radio. Very inspiring, and I look forward to listening to it every week. You guys give out great information, especially for someone like me that's just getting started and getting serious. I'm looking forward to competing at the end of next year." So shout out to Sean Johnson. He's looking to compete next year and just getting started. And I want to give a shout out also to Chris Trumer on Instagram. He commented on one of our New York Muscle Radio photos. Actually, it was the ice cream one, and he basically said, "Holy shit, I want this." So shout out to Chris Trumer.
You said that so like political. Chris Trumer.
Well, you know, I'm reading this off my phone right now, and it's kind of hard when you look at Instagram names when they comment on it because everything is one word, obviously. So I wasn't sure if it was Chris Trumer or
Chris Trimmer.
Chris Trimmer. I don't know what I'm reading, but I looked at it, and it is Chris Trumer.
Wow, let's look at this page a little bit here. So, wait, is that his before and after picture? Oh, no. I thought it was. It's a picture. What movie was that from?
That's Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Fat Bastard.
Yeah, so he did it before and after of Fat Bastards. That was the before and that was the after. But I just saw the thumbnail, so I thought it was him. So, but shout out to him. That made us laugh. So, all right, guys, again, if you want a shout out, hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/New York Muscle Radio, or on Instagram at AB Fitness and at Jacked Fitness. All right, let's move on to the listener question of the day. If you guys have a question and you'd like us to answer it and we could answer it on the podcast for you, you can head on over to newyorkmuscleradio.com/listener question. So the question of today is, does the quality of your gym matter? Assuming the bare bone requirements for a standard weightlifting routine are met, example, bench, squat rack, dumbbells, is there much to gain from a membership at an expensive upscale gym versus a cheaper but less hardcore alternative? I ask because I currently pay only $10 a month to go to my local Crunch Fitness in Greenpoint. I guess that's Connecticut. It's clean and has all the essentials, but I would pay more if a better gym would significantly aid my muscle building and fat loss goals. From Colin Lucan. That's a good question. Definitely something different.
Yeah, and I think people are going to expect a very general answer, but I'll give you my answer, and I probably wouldn't answer this way if you asked me this question maybe like 10 years ago, but if you ask me now, the quality of your gym, the biggest thing that you want to pay attention to is the atmosphere, not even the equipment in there at all. You know, I don't care if the gym has, you know, just barbells and dumbbells and is very hardcore, or if it has every piece of equipment in the gym. Either one of those, whichever one has the better atmosphere, the better members, the ones that are motivated to work out, the ones that are not there for a social setting, that are not there to cause issues, that's the gym where you're going to have more progress in both muscle gain and fat loss, because you're going to make the most out of your workouts. I can't tell you how many, I've been a member of so many different gyms. I can't tell you how many gyms that I've been to that have the best equipment, you know, expensive gym membership, but it's loaded with people that just want to socialize and just want to take pictures and post them on Instagram and just want to look good. And they hog the equipment, they talk. Everybody means well. It's not a type of gym where people are troublemakers or anything like that, where you have issues with people. But I never want to work out there. I hate it. My workouts take 10 times as long. People just want to talk. It becomes an atmosphere that I don't want to go to. There's other gyms where I go to that have bare bones equipment, stuff that doesn't even really work that well, but everybody is in there training. Everybody's in there motivating each other. Everybody's in there, you know, in a great mood. You come in, it's time to lift, and, you know, it makes you want to work out. Trust me, the people in the gym are going to be more important than the equipment in the gym.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to answer this question a little differently than he did. You could even work out in your house, provided you had the basics, bare bone essentials. That's really all you need in a program. You know, you really don't need anything fancy. You don't need any fancy types of equipment or anything like that. A basic squat rack, a barbell, maybe a couple of adjustable dumbbells, and you're good to go. You know, you'll be able to do everything that you need to make gains. So there's no reason to go and spend $130 a month and go to a really high-end gym. If the bare bones stuff can get done for $10 a month, then by all means go and accomplish that. But like Pete said, atmosphere is going to be very important. You know, there's so many gyms, especially in Manhattan, you know, the bigger cities, that have like all these high-end amenities that come with your gym membership. I know there's a gym in particular that they'll actually do your laundry for you. Like if you bring your laundry in, I mean, obviously you're paying, but they'll do your laundry while you work out. I mean, that might be a cool feature if you're, you know, in time, you know, you need time, you're on a time constraint, but again, it's all going to depend on your budget and depend on what you need. I personally, if I was going to join a gym, I would just, you know, find a local one that would be around $10 a month like you did, and just go and just to change the scenery. You know, I work out at my own personal training facility, so I don't need to go to a gym, but if I did, it would be a $10 gym, you know, provided it had everything I needed to. There's no reason to spend any more than that. You know, to spend $50, $60 on a Gold's Gym is not worth it.
No, I mean,
just for the name, no way.
Not at all. Like you said, just because of the name too, it doesn't mean what's inside the gym. You know, there could be people who want to work out inside a Gold's Gym, and there could be people in a Gold's Gym that just want to hang out. You know, it depends on the gym itself. Not everyone is created exactly the same. You know, the location has a lot to do with it, the crowd, everything.
Yeah. So if this crunch is working better for you, and it's only $10 a month, and you're getting everything done there, and you like the atmosphere, then by all means, you know, do it. If you have the room in your house and you're able to pick up some equipment and, you know, bring some stuff home to do it, then that might be a better alternative. You know, there's a lot of pluses and minuses to working out at home versus working out at a gym. You know, for once, there's no waiting. I never have to wait for any machines or anything like that. I have the access to everything I have. You know, the downside is to it, you don't have as much variety. But again, at the same time, you know, depending on how you're training, you really don't need that much variety to make progress. So this question can be answered so many different ways, but I like the question. I thought it was a really good one.
Yeah, bottom line, whichever one you're going to be able to be more consistent with is going to result in the best, your best results in muscle gain and fat loss.
Yep. All right, guys. Again, if you want a question answered, head on over to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com/listener question. All right, man, I think it's time we take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk about meal prepping and flexible dieting.
What's up, New York Muscle Radio listeners? It's your co-host, Big Pete Kacharian, and I'm glad you're all listening. Put down that tilapia and asparagus. Learn how to get bigger, stronger, and leaner eating what you want. Pick up a copy of Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. But for now, let's get to the show.
Hey guys, it's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, and I just wanted to announce that my brand new personal training facility is now open. I'm currently taking on new clients in the Long Island, New York area. If you're interested in working with the best personal trainer in the business, head on over to abfitnesstrainer.com and sign up for your free consultation. Then you can understand why bodybuilding.com has named me Personal Trainer of the Month.
All right, guys, we're back. New York Muscle Radio, episode number 112. Flexible dieting and meal prepping. So meal prepping is generally associated with, just in general, any type of diet, paleo diet, or I don't even know what kind of fad diets there are anymore. Is that bad? I'm not up on that. What's a new diet? What's a new fad diet that's out?
The new fad diet, it's definitely vegan.
Oh yeah.
Vegan's definitely the new fad diet. Absolutely.
Do they prep though?
I don't know. I guess cavemen didn't have containers, so you probably shouldn't meal prep if you're vegan, right?
Yeah, I guess. Who knows?
Oh no, that's paleo. Paleo is cavemen. So I wouldn't think that vegans really meal prep, because a lot of their foods you don't really need to prepare. Especially if you're eating a lot of fruits and whatever. But meal prep is probably more in line with bodybuilders, a very big meal prep. But even the average person who wants to get in shape, I think meal prep is more just for people who have the goal of fat loss in mind, not necessarily a health-related diet. A lot of people who follow vegan diets, paleo diets, stuff like that, most of them are doing it more for health purposes than fat loss. So any diet approach that people take for fat loss usually incorporate meal prep into it, but specifically bodybuilders with contest prep are very big on meal prep.
Yeah. So basically, what is meal prep? I guess you could say is the act of preparing your meals for the day. You have people on the opposite ends of the spectrum here as far as meal prepping goes. You have the people who will prep all their meals for the week, and bring 8 meals with them as they leave the door for 2 hours. And then you have the other end of the spectrum that people don't prepare for their food and don't prepare their meals whatsoever. So I think the whole concept of meal prepping is basically getting all your meals done for the week and then carrying them with you everywhere you go. Now, the beautiful thing about flexible dieting is that doesn't necessarily have to be done. You can if you want to, but it doesn't have to be done.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing that I think flexible dieting adds in value to somebody who's trying to build muscle and burn fat, because if you stick to a very structured meal plan, then it doesn't allow that variety. And should you prepare all your meals and something happen where you don't have access to one of them, let's say you leave the house and you forget to take your meals, or you're in a rush and you didn't get to cook them, then what are you going to do? But if you're a flexible dieter, then okay, I know I have this amount of calories for the day, I consume this much. If I go to this place and they have the macronutrients and calories on the menu, I could just plug that in. Or you could grab something and make it, and it doesn't have to be the same thing. If you're not in the mood for chicken, you can have something else with the same macronutrients. But the biggest issue I have with people who promote flexible dieting that try to pass it off on something that it's not, and they usually try to pass it off on, okay, this means that I never have to meal prep, I never have to cook. I just eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and fit it into my macros. And you know what? You can do that to a certain degree. But does that mean that you have to? And does that mean that it's going to be the best way to go about it? Is that going to be the easiest way to go about it? Especially if you're using flexible dieting to burn fat, especially if you're using flexible dieting when you're doing something like a contest prep. Meal prep is definitely 100% going to help you get the job done better, even with flexible dieting. If you incorporate it correctly. Doesn't mean it has to be done, doesn't mean that it's the only way to do it. But if you are flexible dieting, some aspect of meal prepping is definitely going to help make things easier.
Yeah, so I want to talk about why it's important to meal prep. So again, when people meal prep, we kind of make fun of them a little bit, like, oh, they're preparing their meals for the week, how foolish. At the same token, yes, it can be foolish because they're eating the same things day in and day out. And, with part of flexible dieting, we're preaching, that you don't have to eat the same things day in and day out. But the good part about it is when you meal prep, you're going to be prepared. And, success is a planned event. Nothing is going to happen on accident. So if your goal is to lose as much fat as possible within the next 12 weeks or so, if you're prepared during that 12 weeks and you have all your food ready and you bring it with you and you don't let anything else come in your way, chances are you're going to lose more fat doing that than if you were just to quote unquote wing everything. Granted, after a certain amount of time doing this, you don't have to necessarily prepare like that anymore. Like for example, me and Pete, I hardly meal prep anymore. The one thing that I'll do as far as meal prep goes, I'll make like a big batch of like protein, just this way I have it and I don't have to cook that throughout the day, So that's just pretty much what we do. But again, in the beginning, it may be more important to kind of meal prep a bunch of meals. Or if your schedule is not ideal and you're always on the go and you're always out, it may be better to bring meals from home than to try to be flexible and get it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to add to that because I agree with it 100%. That's the way I approach things. It's definitely important to meal prep in general, whether you are burning fat or building muscle is your primary goal, because like Anthony said, success is a planned event, and it just makes things that much more convenient, because there is nothing worse than when you're dieting and you have a certain budget of macronutrients to fit in for the day. And let's say you're halfway through your day and you have a very little amount of fat left for the day, but you still have to get a ton of protein. Or maybe you have, you have a ton of carbs left, but you have very little fat and you have very little protein. It makes it very hard to try and find the magical food that'll fit those numbers if you're not prepared already. If you have these food sources ready, if you have just plain grilled chicken cooked for the day and you have just protein left and no fat, it's very easy. Okay, I'll finish my macros with grilled chicken. Or the opposite, let's say you need a fatty source and you have like a fattier meat source already prepared. It's very easy, so that makes it convenient, and it's almost as convenient as allowing yourself to eat whatever foods you want and fitting them in. So there's a I guess you could say like a yin and yang to it. You have to have both of them. You can't just focus on one or the other. This is what makes it more balanced.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like rant on meal prepping, because it's, meal prepping is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Like I said, having your food ready is always going to be better. Chances are if you have a meal that has, 40 grams of protein and 50 grams of carbs in the fridge, you're more than likely to grab that versus grabbing the cookies if you're really hungry, and that's like the downfall with flexible dieting, is you can almost get too flexible. Right. And some people almost try to make that a statement, like, oh, look, I fit in all these, I saved all my carbohydrates today and I just had ice cream. And that's not necessarily a good thing. That's not necessarily where you want to go. If you learned from our last podcast, episode number 111 about fiber, you know that it's important to get a certain amount of fiber in during the day. And if you're getting all your carbohydrates from ice cream, chances are you're going to have a hole or a lack of micronutrients somewhere along the lines there. So don't try to be too flexible with flexible dieting. It's almost like I'm encouraging you guys to kind of meal prep a little bit and to be aware of what you have food-wise. It's always good to have... Like for me personally, like I said, I usually just meal prep a whole bunch of chicken during the week, because that's the one thing that I'm usually short on during the day is protein. And I need to make sure I'm getting in more protein. The carbohydrate sources I have around my house, I can make within 5 minutes. If I was heading out the door and I needed to bring a meal with me, I could, one, pick something out that I know about, but two, if I had to bring something with me, I could always just throw a couple pieces of chicken on a, 2 to 4 slices of whole wheat bread and be good to go. But I haven't had to bring my meals with me in such a long time. I just haven't found the need for it, because the good thing with flexible dieting is, again, meal timing kind of goes out the window also. So you don't have to eat every 3 hours to keep your metabolism revving. That's such a big myth that hopefully we debunked 112 episodes ago,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they got the point with that a while ago. Hopefully they have. If they haven't, make sure you check out the other ones where we talk about that.
Listen to all 111.
Listen to every single one. But, I agree with everything you said too. Plus, a good thing to note is that, when your calories are much higher, that also makes meal prepping less important. It's still important, like Anthony said, as far as like having his chicken cooked for the day or his protein sources for the day, just so they're available. But when you have so many calories to play with, when we're both up above around 3,500 or more at this point, it's very easy if we run into a situation where we just have to eat whatever is available, because we're not going to go over our macros for the day, most likely. When you're very low on calories, when we're dieting or our calories are much lower, then meal prep becomes much more important, because you don't have as many calories or macros to mess around with. So you have to be a lot more strict, making sure you don't go over and you have the right food so that the balance and the ratio is still good for the day. The last time I actually had to take Tupperware with food in it was last year, when I was very close to competing within the last few weeks. That contest was probably my most flexible. I know I practiced flexible dieting throughout many bodybuilding and physique contests, but that was probably the most flexible. And I probably prepped 2 or 3 meals a day and took them with me because I was also very busy at the time too. And it made things that much easier to just hit my numbers and not have to think about it. You know, people use flexible dieting as a tool to not have to stress over everything. But the fact is, you can turn it into a situation where it's even more stressful than just following a meal plan. Because then once you have the meal plan, or your meals packed for the day, whatever it is, a couple meals packed for the day, you don't have to stress over finding the right foods to fit into your macros. And again, that's only when you're dieting on lower calories. When you're, it happens the same thing with me. When I reverse diet, I'm very strict with everything. I will prep more just to make sure I'm hitting my numbers and not going over them. When the calories start to get high enough, like when I have 400 grams of carbs to play with as opposed to 250, 300, I don't worry about meal prepping as much, because at that point, okay, I have enough for the day where if I'm out and I can't hit the numbers and I just eat something, it's probably not going to go over it for the day because I have so much room to play with it.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, when your carbs are definitely lower and you're meal prepping, you're dieting, it's extremely important to be prepared in that sense. Definitely. There's a good point there, big guy.
Yeah, so there's a time and place for everything. And if your goal is fat loss and your calories are low, just know that meal prepping is definitely going to help you, even if you are flexible dieting.
Trying to think what else we need to talk about with meal prepping. So we talked about why it's important. Are we missing something here? I think what are we missing here?
Well, there's a difference between just meal prepping as far as preparing your meals and then packing every single one of your meals for the day. And, a lot of people, when they hear the term meal prep, they think that you're on a 6-day meal plan with a certain amount of protein, carbs, and fats each meal from whatever foods. Prepping your meals, can be as simple as just cooking all your food for the week and having it, and each day taking the food that you want and hitting your numbers with it, So if that's your definition of meal prepping, then that's pretty much what I do, what Anthony does on a normal basis. But then, if we want to have pizza or something in between and fit it in, we fit it in. But we have those food sources available to us to hit our numbers when we need it, And if we're going to leave the house and not have food, we have it and we can take it with us. So that's how it'll help you.
I used to own a meal prep company, actually, and I haven't really spoke about it in a while because it's been a little bit since we actually closed. But one of the things that was great with that was I would get, obviously I would order meals for myself during the week. I would bring home 14 to 20 meals a week for myself. And it was awesome just to have those in the fridge, just, all right, I need some food. What am I going to eat? Boom. Here's the meals. Here's, turkey meatballs with whole pasta. I can have this. I know it contains this much. All right. Boom. Beautiful. I was almost never having to, when I meal prepped like that for the company, I never had to really go food shopping extra, so that was the good thing too, is I was able to stay on a budget. So if you meal prep for the week and you make a whole bunch of different kinds of meals for yourself, it doesn't necessarily, when we say meal prep, it doesn't necessarily have to be, just grilled chicken and brown rice. It could be anything, like I said, turkey meatballs and, pasta. It could be, a turkey chili. It could be anything, you could meal prep anything. That's the beautiful thing about flexible dieting. It could be, whatever, chicken and egg noodles. I don't know, whatever you're eating, it could be that just prepped and put in the thing, like I like sandwiches, but I would never meal prep multiple sandwiches. You know what I mean?
Right. Just because you're meal prepping doesn't mean that you're not eating food choices that you want. You can incorporate the food, whatever foods you want, into meal prepping. You don't have to be exclusive with flexible dieting or meal prepping. You can incorporate both of them, and I encourage you to do both of them because I guarantee you, if you choose one or the other, you're going to see more results if you combine the two of them.
Yeah, and you remember, you really have to look at your goal too. If your goal is ultimately I want to lose as much fat as possible, that's when meal prepping is going to be more of a role. If you're more in a muscle building phase or not fat burning type phase, then you definitely can be a lot more loose with it. But the main thing is, for the average person who might be listening to this podcast, chances are if you don't have food already made or you don't have the ingredients in your fridge, you're going to go out and you're going to get something else. I see it all the time with clients, oh, I didn't have any food in my house and I got really hungry and I just ended up having this, and this doesn't fit no matter how flexible it can be,
Right. And I think the thing that people don't realize too is that flexible dieting done correctly is a skill that you have to develop. You know, you can't just start doing it and expect to hit your numbers perfect. You know, trust me, it takes time. You know, me and Anthony have been doing this so long now that we could almost eyeball everything and still almost hit our numbers with no problem.
I'm like neurotic though. I can't just eyeball.
No,
like
I don't like to either. I mean, if I'm sitting at home and I know what something is, I might throw it on the scale just because. Even if I know exactly how much it weighs, I might put it on the scale anyway. Because again, I think that's what's gotten us to the point where if we had to do it without the scale or do it without measuring, we could do it. But even so, even with the scale and everything, it's still a skill that has to be developed because you have to know, okay, if I have this meal, am I going to save up enough food for the day? Am I going to be able to balance it with my next 2 or 3 meals? Am I eating too much in one meal? Do I have enough room to go out and eat and not go over for the last meal of the day? Did I save up enough? That takes time. And I think a way to avoid, the pitfalls of flexible dieting where you have trouble hitting your numbers is starting out balancing it with prepping your meals. Because if you start out planning your meals for the day and then have one of them or two of them where you're a little bit flexible for it, it's very easy because there's less room for error. When you just say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to stop my meal prepping and I'm going to just eat 200 grams of protein, 400 grams of carbs, and 70 grams of fat and expect to just hit those numbers perfectly, it's probably going to be a little bit hard for you if you haven't been practicing it at all, if you haven't been incorporating that. So it's going to take time, but I think meal prepping will help kind of ease, the transition between the two. And I don't think it's anything that should be taken out ever. I think it should in some element be there.
Yeah, I agree with you with that exactly, because I was going to say, part of meal prepping is preparing for your day, but also with flexible dieting, you have to make sure that you're preparing your day via your calories, how many calories you're consuming that day, how much grams of protein, how many grams of carbs, you have to determine. I like to say that your calorie intake and your macronutrients are like your budget for the day. So for breakfast, you're going to start off the day with, how much of your protein is going to start your day off, how much carbs, how much fat, and that's going to be the starting point of your day right there. So how much more could you quote unquote meal prep for the rest of the day with using that number? So you have to be prepared even with your numbers. If, like we said, just using the 200 grams of protein example, if you're going to have, if you plan on having 5 meals a day, you better break that up, 5 times, because chances are it's not ideal, but if you have 50 grams for breakfast and then nothing else until the end of the day, it's not good to have 150 in one meal. So meal prepping can go both ways as far as being prepared, but also, balancing your day out, balancing your budget of food out.
Yeah. So bottom line, if you're having trouble hitting your numbers and you're practicing flexible dieting, definitely try preparing more of your meals. I guarantee you that will help you. I think the biggest thing that most people have is they just leave everything up to the last minute. They procrastinate. They find themselves in situations where, oh, you know what, this wasn't available. Well, you know what, make it available. So.
All right, guys. I think we pretty much answered everything there is to know about meal prepping and flexible dieting. I think the main thing that, like we said, you need to be concerned with that meal prepping and flexible dieting also do go hand in hand, because it's all about being prepared for your day. If you're not preparing for your day, you're not going to achieve success. And I think that level of preparedness is going to depend on your goal. If your goal is fat loss, if your goal is contest prep, you have to make sure you're preparing that much more. If your goal is general fat loss, you may not have to prepare as much as someone who's dieting down for a contest, but you still have to be prepared. If you're reverse dieting or trying to gain in a little bit of a surplus, trying to gain a little bit of muscle, then you can be a little more flexible there. If you're a complete off-season mode and you're just trying to gain weight, you don't have to prepare as much. You're the least one there. So I think you got to keep that in mind when we're talking about meal prep, and then just go from there. If you're finding yourself, you find the trend of, okay, it's hard for me to get my protein in, so I better make sure I have protein prepared. Because for me personally, that's my biggest downfall. If I don't have protein prepared in my house, I'm not going to sit there and pull out chicken breasts and start grilling. So if I know I have to, every week, every Sunday, I'll grill up a whole bunch of chicken, or I'll throw the chicken in the slow cooker just so I have it for the week, and that chicken will usually last me, and that's my preparing for my goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way with that too. If I I always like to have some protein on reserve in case I can't grab it, because it's pretty easy.
You don't cook your protein though.
Just chicken mostly.
You do? You cook chicken for the week?
Not to be honest with you, not as much as I have in the past. I mean, for years I was very big on it. I always just made bulk chicken and sweet potatoes because if I had to grab something that would be there. I've gotten more and more flexible, and I think I got better at flexible dieting, like I said, so I haven't had as much trouble
I think
fitting
you've gotten
the protein.
better at flexible dieting since I came into your life.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know what? To be honest with you, I've always had some balance between flexible dieting and clean eating, quote unquote. But it definitely went more in favor of flexible since I've known Anthony. He's very, very big into just whatever he feels like eating fits, and I definitely have been incorporating that more and more. And like I said, this last contest prep that I had, it was definitely the most flexible, more foods included than I ever have in the past. And it was the easiest prep I've ever had. And the results were still exactly where I wanted them to be. So,
all right, guys. So that's it. That's today's podcast. Again, make sure you're following us on Instagram. I'm at AB Fitness, Pete's at Jacked Fitness. Like us on Facebook, and don't forget to leave us a 5-star review, as that helps the channel grow. Also, what helps the channel grow is if you guys share this podcast. So make sure you share this podcast with someone who meal preps that doesn't flexible diet, so they know that they can do both. And vice versa, if you know someone who does flexible dieting who doesn't meal prep, share this with them and let them know that they can meal prep and they'll see better gains. Big guy, it's your turn.
all right, guys, Pete and Anthony, New York Muscle Radio, and we're out.
Enjoyed this episode of New York Muscle Radio? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, New York Muscle Radio.